Okay.
So whenever. All right. So you'll be talking a little bit about gun laws and gun control, things like that today. One of the things I'm going to be bringing across to you guys here is that I'm not taking one side of the argument saying we need to have more gun control or we need to have less gun control. All I'm saying right now is going to be the facts for it, which is essentially going to further the argument for that. But the claim of fact for this is going to be that the stricter gun laws are going to fail to help prevent crime. Is one of the things that a lot of officials, things like that are trying to promote gun control are going to say to you is that they're going to bring up the facts that, oh, well, these states have more gun crimes than these ones. Well, that's not the only thing that needs to be looked at when taking this into consideration. Because yes, while states that have less stringent gun control laws on them are going to have more gun statistics used in crimes because they're going to be more readily available. What needs to be taken into consideration, though, is the overall crime statistics. So, for example, one of the things is that out of 31 states that have a right to carry laws and things like that, have on average a 24% lower violent crime rate. They have a 19% lower murder rate, as well as a 39% lower robbery rate. Now that's kind of a big news on that when they're trying to say that having guns in private citizens' ownership actually helps further violence. It really contradicts that. And one of the other things is that if you look at like the District of Columbia, they have a complete gun ban. So you're not allowed to own any guns in the District of Columbia, but they have in the country one of the worst crime statistics. It's kind of surprising on there. There was also a study done by, let's see their names here, two criminologists, Professor Don Cates and Professor Gary Mauser. That was actually published in the Harvard Journal. I'm trying to see the exact name of the journal here. In which they stated that, where is that? Sorry, I lost my place on this here. Let me see. So out of different countries, so they weren't even focused just on America here. They were actually looking at a lot of Europe as well. For example, Norway has one of the highest gun ownership statistics of any Western European country. Coincidentally, they have the lowest murder rate. On the flip side of that coin, you look at Holland, which has the lowest gun ownership in Western Europe. They actually have the highest crime rate, highest murder rate in all of Western Europe. Kind of a little bit of surprise in there, especially when everyone's trying to convince you guns are bad. Now, the other flip side of that, now granted I know it is Russia and everyone here probably knows Russia as being a little bit crazy and fight happy. But they have, through years, through totalitarian dictatorships and all kinds of fun stuff like that, they have no guns. You can't own guns there. But they have a murder rate which is 4 times that of the US, as well as 20 times that of Norway. So again, and out of everything I'm saying here, I'm not trying to promote guns, anything like that. But one of the other things that gets brought up a lot of times are going to be, coincidentally, just late last year we had the shooting at Sandy Hook. Everyone's trying to use that as to further gun control, which is a great idea for them. It's great publicity. The only problem is that all of the guns that were used on there were owned legally, but not by him. He obtained every one of those weapons illegally, basically by killing the owner of them and taking them. Another great example of, unfortunately, shooting like that is going to be Columbine. Everyone knows this one. This is greatly publicized. I believe there was even a documentary movie made on it. every one of those weapons was obtained illegally from them as well. They violated, I believe it was, let me see here, close to about 20 gun laws in accruing their cache of weapons there. A couple of them were actually obtained through, I believe it was one of the girlfriends of one of the perpetrators there, legally. So it's one of those things that they, even if they would not have passed all of the checks that they're trying to get on there, they still would have acquired those guns. Now, what I'm saying here is I'm not trying to say that basically that gun control laws promote crime, because that's not going to be the case. But I'm also not saying that it's going to help it's going to necessarily cause lower crime rates. However, with all of the information, it does point to the fact that typically if people are able to own guns, they're not going to be at much of a risk of having people, home invasions and things like that, because, I mean, as the statistics here show, criminals apparently don't want to mess with people that have guns. So, that's it.
Seriously.
See the thumbs up from this guy over here, like from the beginning. This is my topic, he's like.
Very interesting. I see where you're going with it at, though. Makes sense.
All right, Alex, I think other people will point it out too. You sound like you're apologizing for making an argument the whole time you're trying to make an argument. Just make the claim. Don't worry about it. Let the chips fall where they may, so we know what it is you're trying to say. You do finally have a claim that you make at the beginning of the speech, and the argument is basically that additional gun control laws will fail to have much of an impact on crime. Stick to that. Now, how are you going to prove that? You've got a whole bunch of information, some of which is not cited very well. I've got some statistical information that gets presented. I have no idea where that information comes from. A couple examples that you cite, which I don't doubt are probably true, but I know that you found them someplace, and we ought to be getting some information on that. I got a quote that you give us that seems a little uncertain. It's like you cite the two people, you start to give us a source citation, and then it seems like the quote doesn't really fit in where the area that you're talking about, and you shift topics there. The biggest problem with the speech that I have is that it's not organized. In addition to citing the information, the organization is a problem. I think if you took all the information that you had in the speech, cited it more appropriately, and then organized it more efficiently, the argument would be a lot stronger. As it is, it just sounds like you're wandering around making random observations about this case or that example or this country, instead of making straightforward claims that say a comparison to other countries shows that gun rates don't affect the amount of crime. Comparisons between places with strict gun laws show that there is no significant difference. The major cases that have been illustrated in the last few years would not have been prevented even if we'd implemented the laws that have been suggested subsequently. There you go. I mean, that's basically what your argument is, and you just need to put it into a more coherent form. Like I said, you're kind of wandering around in the wilderness with the information, but not putting it into an argument that's as coherent and forceful as it ought to be.